Hello, my lovelies, and welcome back to Bedtime Stories with Celosia Crane. And this, the final week of March. And so, we're going to wrap things up with two more of the Just So stories by Rudyard Kipling. And I'm going to start with the beginning of the Armadillos. This, oh best beloved, is another story of the high and far-off times. In the very middle of those times was a prickly, stickly hedgehog, and he lived on the banks of the turbid Amazon, eating shelly snails and things. And he had a friend, a slow, solid tortoise, who lived on the banks of the turbid Amazon, eating green lettuces and things. And so that was all right, best beloved, don't you see? But also, at the same time, in those high and far-off times, there was a painted jaguar, and he lived on the banks of the turbid Amazon too. And he ate everything he could catch. When he could not catch deer or monkeys, he would eat frogs and beetles. And when he could not catch frogs and beetles, he went to his mother jaguar, and she told him how to eat hedgehogs and tortoises. She said to him ever so many times, graciously waving her tail, "My son, when you find a hedgehog, you must drop him into the water, and then he will uncoil. And when you catch a tortoise, you must scoop him out of his shell with your paw." And so that was all right, best beloved. One beautiful night, on the banks of the turbid Amazon, Painted Jaguar found Stickly Prickly Hedgehog and Slow Solid Tortoise sitting under the trunk of a fallen tree. They could not run away, and so Stickly Prickly curled himself up into a ball because he was a hedgehog, and Slow Solid Tortoise drew in his head and feet into his shell as far as they would go, because he was a tortoise. And so that was all right, best beloved, don't you see? "Now attend me," said Painted Jaguar, "because this is very important. My mother said that when I meet a hedgehog, I am to drop him into the water and then he will uncoil. And when I meet a tortoise, I am to scoop him out of his shell with my paw. Now, which of you is hedgehog and which is tortoise? Because, to save my spots, I cannot tell." "Are you sure of what your mummy told you?" said Stickly Prickly Hedgehog. "Are you quite sure? Perhaps she said that when you uncoil a tortoise, you must shell him out the water with a scoop, and when you paw a hedgehog, you must drop him on the shell." "Are you sure of what your mummy told you?" said Slow and Solid Tortoise. "Are you quite sure? Perhaps she said that when you water a hedgehog, you must drop him into your paw, and when you meet a tortoise, you must shell him till he uncoils." "I don't think it was at all like that," said Painted Jaguar, but he felt a little puzzled. "But please, say it again more distinctly." "When you scoop water with your paw, you uncoil it with a hedgehog," said Stickly Prickly. "Remember that, because it's important." "But," said the tortoise, "when you paw your meat, you drop it into a tortoise with a scoop. Why can't you understand?" "You're making my spots ache," said Painted Jaguar. "And besides, I don't want your advice at all. I only wanted to know which of you is hedgehog and which is tortoise." "I shan't tell you," said Stickly Prickly, "but you can scoop me out of my shell if you like." "Aha!" said Painted Jaguar. "Now I know you're tortoise. You thought I wouldn't. Now I will." Painted Jaguar darted out his patty paw just as Stickly Prickly curled himself up. And of course, Jaguar's paddy paw was just filled with prickles. Worse than that, he knocked Stickly Prickly away and away into the woods and the bushes where it was too dark to find him. Then he put his paddy paw into his mouth, and of course the prickles hurt him worse than ever. As soon as he could speak, he said, "Now I know he isn't Tortoise at all. But," and then he scratched his head with his unprickly paw, "how do I know that this other is Tortoise?" "But I am Tortoise," said Slow and Solid. "Your mother was quite right. She said that you were to scoop me out of my shell with your paw. Begin." "You didn't say she said that a minute ago," said Painted Jaguar, sucking the prickles out of his paddy paw. "You said she said something quite different." "Well, suppose you say that I said that she said something quite different. I don't see that it makes any difference, because if she said what you said I said she said, it's just the same as if I said what she said she said. On the other hand, if you think she said that you were to uncoil me with a scoop instead of pawing me into drops with a shell, I can't help that, now can I?" "But you said you wanted to be scooped out of your shell with my paw," said Painted Jaguar. "If you'll think again, you'll find that I didn't say anything of the kind. I said that your mother said that you were to scoop me out of my shell," said Slow and Solid. "What will happen if I do?" said the Jaguar, most sniffily and most cautious. "I don't know, because I've never been scooped out of my shell before. But I tell you truly, if you want to see me swim away, you've only got to drop me into the water." "I don't believe it," said Painted Jaguar. "You've mixed up all the things my mother told me to do with the things that you asked me whether I was sure that she didn't say, till I don't know whether I'm on my head or my painted tail. And now you come and tell me something I can understand, and it makes me more mixy than before. My mother told me that I was to drop one of you two into the water, and as you seem so anxious to be dropped, I think you don't want to be dropped. So jump into the turbid Amazon and be quick about it." "I warn you that your mummy won't be pleased. Don't tell her I didn't tell you," said Slow and Solid. "If you say another word about what my mother said," the Jaguar answered. But he had not finished the sentence before Slow and Solid quietly dived into the turbid Amazon, swam under water for a long way, and came out on the bank where Prickly Stickly was waiting for him. "That was a very narrow escape," said Prickly Stickly. "I don't rib Painted Jaguar. What did you tell him that you were?" "I told him truthfully that I was a truthful tortoise, but he wouldn't believe it, and he made me jump into the river to see if I was. And I was, and he is surprised. Now he is gone to tell his mummy. Listen to him." They could hear Painted Jaguar roaring up and down among the trees and the bushes by the side of the turbid Amazon, till his mummy came. "Son, son!" said his mother ever so many times, graciously waving her tail. "What have you been doing that you shouldn't have done?" "I tried to scoop something that said it wanted to be scooped out of its shell with my paw, and my paw is full of prickles," said Painted Jaguar. "Son, son!" said his mother ever so many times, graciously waving her tail. "By the prickles in your paddy paw, I see that that must have been a hedgehog. You should have dropped him in the water." I did that to the other thing. He said he was a tortoise, and I didn't believe him, and it was quite true, and he has dived under the turbid Amazon, and he won't come up again, and I haven't anything to eat at all, and I think we had better find lodgings somewhere else. They are too clever on the turbid Amazon for poor me." "Son, son," said his mother ever so many times, graciously waving her tail. "Now attend to me and remember what I say. A hedgehog curls himself up into a ball and his prickles stick out every which way at once. By this you may know the hedgehog." "I don't like this old lady one little bit," said Prickly Stickly under the shadow of a large leaf. "I wonder what else she knows." "A tortoise can't curl himself up," Mother Jaguar went on ever so many times, graciously waving her tail. "He only draws his head and legs into his shell. By this you may know the tortoise." "I don't like this old lady at all, said Slow and Solid Tortoise. "Even Painted Jaguar can't forget those directions. It's a great pity that you can't swim, Stickly Prickly." "Don't talk to me," said Stickly Prickly. "Just think how much better it would be if you could curl up. This is a mess. Listen to Painted Jaguar." Painted Jaguar was sitting on the banks of the turbid Amazon, sucking prickles out of his paws and saying to himself, "Can't curl but can swim, Slow Solid, that's him. Curls up but can't swim, Stickly Prickly, that's him." "He'll never forget that this month of Sundays," said Stickly Prickly. "Hold up my chin, Slow and Solid. I'm going to try to learn to swim. It may be useful." "Excellent," said Slow and Solid. And he held up Stickly Prickly's chin while Stickly Prickly kicked in the waters of the turbid Amazon. "You'll make a fine swimmer yet," said Slow and Solid. "Now, if you can unlace my back plates a little, I'll see what I can do towards curling up. It may be useful." Stickly Prickly helped to unlace Tortoise's back plates, so that by twisting and straining, Slow and Solid actually managed to curl up a titty wee bit. "Excellent," said Stickly Prickly, "but I shouldn't do any more just now. It's making you black in the face. Kindly lead me into the water once again, and I'll practice that side stroke which you say is so easy." And so Stickly Prickly practiced, and Slow Solid swam alongside. "Excellent," said Slow and Solid. "A little more practice will make you a regular whale. Now, if I may trouble you to unlace my back and front plates 2 holes more, I'll try that fascinating bend that you say is so easy. Won't Painted Jaguar be surprised?" "Excellent," said Stickly Prickly, all wet from the turbid Amazon. "I declare I shouldn't know you from one of my own family. 2 holes, I think you said? A little more expression, please, and don't grunt quite so much, or Painted Jaguar may hear us. When you've finished, I want to try that long dive which you say is so easy. Won't Painted Jaguar be surprised?" And so Stickly Prickly dived, and Slow and Solid dived alongside. "Excellent," said Slow and Solid. "A little more attention to holding your breath, and you will be able to keep house at the bottom of the turbid Amazon. Now, I'll try that exercise of putting my hind legs round my ears, which you say is so comfortable. Won't Painted Jaguar be surprised?" "Excellent," said Stickly Prickly, "but it's straining your back plates a little. They are all overlapping now instead of lying side by side." "Oh, that's the result of exercise," said Slow and Solid. "I've noticed that your prickles seem to be melting into one another, and that you're growing to look rather more like a pine cone and less like a chestnut burr than you used to." "Am I?" said Stickly Prickly. "That comes from my soaking in the water. Oh, won't Painted Jaguar be surprised?" They went on with their exercises, each helping the other till morning came, and when the sun was high they rested and dried themselves. Then they saw that they were both of them quite different from what they had been. "Stickly prickly," said Tortoise after breakfast, "I am not what I was yesterday, but I think that I may yet amuse Painted Jaguar." "That was the very thing I was thinking just now," said Stickly Prickly. "I think scales are a tremendous improvement on Prickles, to say nothing of being able to swim. Won't Painted Jaguar be surprised? Let's go and find him." By and by, they found Painted Jaguar still nursing his paddy paw that had been hurt the night before. He was so astonished that he fell 3 times backward over his own painted tail without stopping. "Good morning," said Stickly Prickly, "and how is your dear gracious mummy this morning?" "She is quite well, thank you," said Painted Jaguar, "but you must forgive me if I do not at this precise moment recall your name." "That's unkind of you," said Stickly Prickly, "seeing that this time yesterday you tried to scoop me out of my shell with your paw." "But you hadn't any shell. It was all prickles," said Painted Jaguar. "I know it was. Just look at my paw." "You told me to drop into the turbid Amazon and be drowned," said Slow Solid. "Why are you so rude and forgetful today?" "Don't you remember what your mother told you?" said Stickly Prickly. "Can't curl but can swim. Stickly Prickly, that's him. Curls up but can't swim. Slow Solid, that's him." Then they both curled themselves up and rolled round and round Painted Jaguar till his eyes turned truly cartwheels in his head. Then he went to fetch his mother. "Mother," he said, "there are 2 new animals in the woods today, and the one that you said couldn't swim swims, and the one that you said couldn't curl up curls, and they've gone shares in their prickles, I think, because both of them are scaly all over instead of one being smooth and the other very prickly, and besides that they are rolling round and round in circles and I don't feel comfy." "Son, son," said Mother Jaguar ever so many times, graciously waving her tail. "A hedgehog is a hedgehog and can't be anything but a hedgehog, and a tortoise is a tortoise and can never be anything else." "But it isn't a hedgehog and it isn't a tortoise. It's a little bit of both, and I don't know its proper name." "Nonsense," said Mother Jaguar. "Everything has its proper name. I should call it Armadillo till I found out the real one, and I should leave it alone." So Painted Jaguar did as he was told, especially about leaving them alone. But the curious thing is that from that day to this, O Best Beloved, no one on the banks of the turbid Amazon has ever called Stickly Prickly and Slow Solid anything except Armadillo. There are hedgehogs and tortoises in other places, of course. There are some in my garden. But the real old and clever kind, with their scales lying lippity-lappity over one another, like pine-cone scales, that live on the banks of the turbid Amazon in the high and far-off days, are always called armadillos, because they were so clever. So that's all right, Best Beloved. Don't you see? I've never sailed the Amazon, I've never reached Brazil, but the Don and Magdalena, they can go there when they will. Yes, weekly from Southampton, great steamers white and gold go rolling down to Rio. Roll down to Rio, and I'd like to roll to Rio some day before I'm old. I've never seen a jaguar, nor yet an armadillo, dilloing in his armor, and I suppose I never will, unless I go to Rio, these wonders to behold. Roll down to Rio. Roll really down to Rio. Oh, I'd love to roll to Rio some day before I'm old. And now, my best beloveds, we're going to finish off this month with the story, The Crab That Played with the Sea. Before the high and far-off times, oh, my best beloved, came the time of the very beginnings, and that was in the days when the eldest magician was getting things ready. First he got the earth ready, then he got the sea ready, and then he told all the animals that they could come out and play. And the animals said, "Oh, eldest magician, what shall we play at?" And he said, "I will show you." He took the elephant, all the elephant there was, and said, "Play at being an elephant." And all the elephant there was played. He took the beaver, all the beaver there was, and said, "Play at being a beaver." And all the beaver there was played. He took the cow, all the cow there was, and said, "Play at being a cow." And all the cow there was played. He took the turtle, all the turtle there was, and said, "Play at being a turtle." And all the turtle there was played. One by one he took all the beasts and birds and fishes and told them what to play at. But toward evening, when people and things grow restless and tired, there came up the man. With his own little girl daughter? Yes, with his own best beloved little girl daughter sitting upon his shoulder. And he said, "What is this play, eldest magician?" And the eldest magician said, "Ho, son of Adam, this is the play of the very beginning. But you are too wise for this play." And the man saluted and said, "Yes, I am too wise for this play, but see that you make all the animals obedient to me." Now, while the two were talking together, Pau-ama, the crab, who was next in the game, scuttled off sideways and stepped into the sea, saying to himself, "I will play my play alone in the deep waters, and I will never be obedient to the son of Adam." Nobody saw him go away except the little girl daughter, where she leaned on the man's shoulder. And the play went on till there were no more animals left without orders, and the eldest magician wiped the fine dust off his hands and walked about the world to see how the animals were playing. He went north, best beloved, and found all the elephant there was, digging with his tusks and stamping with his feet in the nice new clean earth that had been made ready for him. "Kun," said all the elephant there was, meaning, "Is this right?" "Paya kun," said the eldest magician, meaning, "That is quite right." And he breathed upon the great rocks and lumps of earth that all the elephant there was had thrown up, and they became the great Himalaya mountains, and you can look them up out on the map. He went east, and he found all the cow there was feeding in the field that had been made ready for her, and she licked her tongue round a whole forest at a time, and swallowed it, and sat down to chew her cud. "Kun," said all the cow there was. "Paya kun," said the eldest magician, and he breathed upon the bare patch where she had eaten, and upon the place where she had sat down, and one became the great Indian desert, and the other became the desert of Sahara, and you can look them out on the map. He went west, and he found all the beaver there was, making a beaver dam across the mouths of broad rivers that had been got ready for him. "Kun," said all the beaver there was. "Paya kun," said the eldest magician, and he breathed upon the fallen trees and the still water, and they became the Everglades in Florida, and you may look them out on the map. Then he went south and found all the turtle there was scratching with his flippers in the sand that had been got ready for him, and the sand and the rocks whirled through the air and fell far off into the sea. "Kun," said all the turtle there was. Payakan, said the eldest magician, and he breathed upon the sand and the rocks where they had fallen in the sea, and they became the most beautiful islands of Borneo, Celebes, Sumatra, Java, and the rest of the Malay archipelago. And you can look them out on the map. By and by, the eldest magician met the man on the banks of the Perak River, and said, Ho, son of Adam, are all the animals obedient to you? Yes, said the man. Is all the earth obedient to you? Yes, said the man. Is all the sea obedient to you? No, said the man. Once a day and once a night the sea runs up the Perak River and drives the sweet water back into the forest, so that my house is made all wet. Once a day and once a night it runs down the river and draws all the water after it, so that there is nothing left but mud, and my canoe is upset. Is that the play you told it to play? No, said the eldest magician, that is a new and a bad play. Look, said the man, and as he spoke, the great sea came up the mouth of the Perak River, driving the river backward till it overflowed all the dark forest for miles and miles, and flooded the man's house. This is wrong. Launch your canoe, and we will find out who is playing with the sea, said the eldest magician. They stepped into the canoe. The little girl-daughter came with them, and the man took his kris, a curving, wavy dagger with a blade like a flame. And they pushed out on the Perak River. Then the sea began to run back and back, and the canoe was sucked out of the mouth of the Perak River, past Selangor, past Malacca, past Singapore, out and out to the island of Bintang, as though it had been pulled by a string. Then the eldest magician stood up and shouted, Ho, beasts, birds, and fishes that I took between my hands at the very beginning, and taught to play that you should play. Which one of you is playing with the sea? Then all the beasts, birds, and fishes said together, Eldest magician, we play the plays that you taught us to play, we and our children's children, but not one of us plays with the sea. Then the moon rose big and full over the water, and the eldest magician said to the hunchback old man who sits in the moon, spinning a fishing line with which he hopes one day to catch the world, Ho, fisher of the moon, are you playing with the sea? No, said the fisherman, I am spinning a line with which I shall some day catch the world, but I do not play with the sea. And he went on spinning his line. Now, there is also a rat up in the moon, who always bites the old fisherman's line as fast as it is made, and the eldest magician said to him, Ho, rat of the moon, are you playing with the sea? And the rat said, I am too busy biting through the line that this old fisherman is spinning. I do not play with the sea. And he went on biting the line. Then the little girl-daughter put up her soft brown arms with the beautiful white shell bracelets and said, Oh, eldest magician, when my father here talked to you at the very beginning, and I leaned upon his shoulder while the beasts were being taught their plays, one beast went away naughtily into the sea before you had taught him his play. And the eldest magician said, How wise are little children who see and are silent. What was the beast like? And the little girl said, He was round and he was flat, and his eyes grew upon stalks, and he walked sideways like this, and he was covered in strong armor upon his back. And the eldest magician said, How wise are little children who speak truth. Now I know where Pauama went. Give me the paddle. So he took the paddle, but there was no need to paddle, for the water flowed steadily past all the islands till they came to the place called Pusat Tasek, the heart of the sea, where the great hollow is that leads down to the heart of the world, and in that hollow grows the wonderful tree, Pau Jongi, that bears the magic twin nuts. Then the eldest magician slid his arms up to the shoulder through the deep warm water, and under the roots of the wonderful tree he touched the broad back of Pau Ama the crab. And Pau Ama settled down at the touch, and all the sea rose up as water rises in a basin when you put your hand into it. "Ah," said the eldest magician, "now I know who has been playing with the sea." And he called out, "What are you doing, Pau Ama?" And Pau Ama, deep down below, answered, "Once a day and once a night I go out to look for my food. Once a day and once a night I return. Leave me alone." Then the eldest magician said, "Listen, Pau Ama, when you go out from your cave, the waters of the sea pour back down into Pusak Tasek, and all the beaches of all the islands are left bare, and the little fish die, and Raja Moyang Kaban, the king of the elephants, his legs are made money. When you come back and sit in Pusak Tasek, the waters of the sea rise, and half the little islands are drowned, and the man's house is flooded, and Raja Abdullah, the king of the crocodiles, his mouth is filled with salt water." Then Pau Ama, deep down below, laughed and said, "I did not know I was so important. Henceforward I will go out 7 times a day, and the waters shall never be still." And the eldest magician said, "I cannot make you play the play you were meant to play, Pau Ama, because you escaped me at the very beginning. But if you are not afraid, come up and we will talk about it." "I am not afraid," said Pau Ama, and he rose to the top of the sea in the moonlight. There was nobody in the world so big as Pau Ama, for he was the king crab of all crabs, not a common crab, but a king crab. One side of his big shell touched the beach at Sarawak, and the other touched the beach at Pahang, and he was taller than the smoke of 3 volcanoes. As he rose up through the branches of the wonderful tree, he tore off one of the great twin fruits, the magic double-kerneled nuts that make people young. And the little girl-daughter saw it bobbing alongside the canoe, and put it in and began to pick out the soft eyes of it with her little golden scissors. "Now," said the magician, "make a magic, Pau Ama, to show that you are really important." Pau Ama rolled his eyes and waved his legs, but he could only stir up the sea, because, though he was a king crab, he was nothing more than a crab. And the eldest magician laughed. "You are not so important after all, Pau Ama," he said. "Now let me try." And he made a magic with his left hand, with just the little finger of his left hand, and lo and behold, best beloved, Pau Ama's hard blue-green-black shell fell off him, as a husk falls off a coconut, and Pau Ama was left all soft, soft as the little crabs that you sometimes find on the beach, best beloved. "Indeed, you are very important," said the eldest magician. "Shall I ask the man here to cut you with Chris? Shall I send for Raja Moyang Kaban, the king of the elephants, to pierce you with his tusks? Or shall I call Raja Abdullah, the king of the crocodiles, to bite you?" And Pau Ama said, "I am ashamed. Give me back my hard shell and let me go back to Pusak Tasek, and I will only stir out once a day and once a night to get my food." And the eldest magician said, "No, Pau Ama, I will not give you back your shell, for you will grow bigger and prouder and stronger, and perhaps you will forget your promise, and you will play with the sea once more." Then Pau Ama said, What shall I do? I am so big that I can only hide in Pusat Tasek, and if I go anywhere else, all soft as I am now, the sharks and the dogfish will eat me. And if I go to Pusat Tasek, all soft as I am now, though I may be safe, I can never stir out to get my food, and so I shall die." Then he waved his legs and lamented. "Listen, Pau Ama," said the eldest magician. "I cannot make you play the play you were meant to play, because you escaped me at the very beginning. But if you choose, I can make every stone and every hole and every bunch of weeds in all the sea a safe Pusat Tasek for you and your children always." Then Pau Ama said, "That is good, but I do not choose yet. Look, there is that man who talked to you at the very beginning. If he had not taken up your attention, I should not have grown tired of waiting and run away, and all this would never have happened. What will he do for me?" And the man said, "If you choose, I will make a magic so that both the deep water and the dry ground will be a home for you and your children, so that you shall be able to hide both on the land and in the sea." And Pau Ama said, "I do not choose yet. Look, there is that girl who saw me running away at the very beginning. If she had spoken then, the eldest magician would have called me back, and all this would never have happened. What will she do for me?" And the little girl-daughter said, "This is a good nut that I am eating. If you choose, I will make a magic, and I will give you this pair of scissors, very sharp and strong, so that you and your children can eat coconuts like this all day long when you come up from the sea to the land. Or you can dig in Pusat Tasek for yourself with the scissors that belong to you when there is no stone or hole nearby. And when the earth is too hard, by the help of these same scissors you can run up a tree." And Pau Ama said, "I do not choose yet, for, all soft as I am, these gifts would not help me. Give me back my shell, O eldest magician, and then I will play your play." And the eldest magician said, "I will give it back, Pau Ama, for 11 months of the year, but on the 12th month of every year it shall grow soft again, to remind you, and all your children, that I can make magics, and to keep you humble, Pau Ama. For I see that if you can run both under the water and on land, you will grow too bold, and if you can climb trees and crack nuts and dig holes with your scissors, you will grow too greedy, Pau Ama." Then Pau Ama thought a little and said, "I have made my choice. I will take all the gifts." Then the eldest magician made a magic with the right hand with all 5 fingers of his right hand, and lo and behold, best beloved, Pau Ama grew smaller and smaller and smaller, till at last there was only a little green crab swimming in the water alongside the canoe, crying in a very small voice, "Give me the scissors!" And the girl-daughter picked him up on the palm of her little brown hand and sat him in the bottom of the canoe and gave him her scissors. And he waved them in his little arms and opened them and shut them and snapped them and said, "I can eat nuts, I can crack shells, I can dig holes, I can climb trees, I can breathe in the dry air, and I can find a safe Pusat Tasek under every stone. I did not know I was so important. Kun? Is this right?" "Payakun," said the eldest magician, and he laughed and gave him his blessing, and little Pau Ama scurried over the side of the canoe into the water. And he was so tiny that he could have hidden under the shadow of a dry leaf on land, or of a dead shell at the bottom of the sea. "Was that well done?" said the eldest magician. "Yes," said the man, "but now we must go back to Perak, and that is a weary way to paddle. If we had waited till Pau Ama had gone out of Pusat Tasek and come home, the water should have carried us there by itself." "You are lazy," said the eldest magician, "so your children shall be lazy. They shall be called the laziest people in the world. They should be called the Malays, the lazy people." And he held up his finger to the moon, and he said, "O fisherman, here is the man too lazy to row home. Pull his canoe home with your line, fisherman." "No," said the man. "If I am to be lazy all my days, let the sea work for me twice a day forever. That will save paddling." And the eldest magician laughed and said, "Paya kun." That is right. And the rat of the moon stopped biting the line, and the fisherman let his line down till it touched the sea. And he pulled the whole deep sea along, past the island of Bintang, past Singapore, past Malacca, past Selangor, till the canoe whirled into the mouth of the Perak River again. "Kun," said the fisherman of the moon. "Paya kun," said the eldest magician. "See now that you pull the sea twice a day and twice a night forever, so that the Malaysia fishermen may be saved paddling. But be careful not to do it too hard, or I shall make a magic on you as I did Pauama." Then they all went up the Perak River and went to bed, best beloved. Now listen and attend. From that day to this, the moon has always pulled the sea up and down and made what we call tides. Sometimes the fisher of the sea pulls a little too hard and we get spring tides. And sometimes he pulls a little too softly and we get what are called neap tides. But nearly always he is careful because of the eldest magician. And Pauama? You can see when you go to the beach how all Pauama's babies make little pusat tasseks for themselves under every stone and bunch of weed on the sands. You can see them waving their little scissors, and in some parts of the world they truly live on the dry land and run up the palm trees and eat coconuts, exactly as the girl daughter promised. But once a year, all Pauamas must shake off their hard armor and be soft, to remind them of what the eldest magician could do. And so it isn't fair to kill or hunt Pauama's babies just because old Pauama was stupidly rude a very long time ago. Oh yes, and Pauama's babies hate being taken out of their little pusat tasseks and brought home in pickle jars. That is why they nip you with their scissors, and it serves you right. China going P's and O's past Pauama's playground close, and his pusat tassek lies near the track of most BIs. UYK and NDL know Pauama's home as well, as the fisher of the sea knows Ben's, MN's, and Rubatinos. But, and this is rather queer, ATLs cannot come here. O and DOA must go around another way. Orient, Anchor, Bibby, Hall never go that way at all. UCS would have a fit if it found itself on it, and if beavers took their cargoes to Penang instead of Lagos, or a fat Shah Saville bore passengers to Singapore, or a White Star were to try a little trip to Surabaya, or a BSA went on past Natal and Cirebon, then great Mr. Lloyd's would come with a wire and drag them home. You'll know what my riddle means when you've eaten mangosteens. Or, if you can't wait till then, ask them to let you to have the outside pages of the Time. Turn over to page 2 where it's marked shipping on the top left hand, then take the atlas, and that is the finest picture book in the world, and see how the names of the places that the steamers go to fit into the names of the places on the map. Any steamer kiddie ought to be able to do that. But if you can't read, ask someone to show it to you. And that, my lovely ones, my best beloveds, is the end of our exploration into Rudyard Kipling's Just So stories. If you enjoyed these, let me know on Twitter at celosia.crane, and perhaps we will revisit them in a few months. Until then, I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, a beautiful start to April, and I will see you next Sunday when we are going to journey into some very interesting folklore from Eastern Europe, Slavic folktales, and I'm really excited because they can get very, very interesting. Bedtime Stories with Celosia Crane is funded entirely through my Patreon. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, please consider becoming a patron for as little as $1 a month. You will get early access to podcast episodes, a few bonus episodes, as well as early access to my gas lamp fantasy. I always get it confused and say gaslight, but that's something entirely different. Which I have been releasing chapter by chapter. You can find that all at patreon.com/Celosia Crane.